Always remember that a seed grows with no sound, but a tree falls with huge noise. Destructions had noise, but creation is quiet. Last but not least, together we are stronger. Let us perform issues quietly, but ensure our voice being heard surely. Thank you.
How can organisations plan more effectively for future disruptions? What does tomorrow's workplace look like? How does sustainability boost business performance? These are just some of the global challenges facing business leaders today that we discuss in The Art of Smart. With analysis and insights that evaluate the quality of smart decision-making against 4 significant factors, we look at some of the movements and trends emerging as imperatives for the majority of organisations, irrespective of location, sector or size. Throughout the year, we will develop the conversation with industry experts and thought leaders and regularly publish new content on smart decision-making that delivers lasting value. The Art of Smart. To read more or to join in the conversation, go to crow.com/Art of Smart.
Hey, hi, good afternoon, everyone. A warmest welcome again to another riveting session, MICCI Crow Expert Hour. And this time we're going to talk about service tax. There are some notable updates by the Royal Malaysian Customs in terms of the service tax guidelines. And we were just relieved that from the budget 2022, that there was an inkling of a reintroduction of GST or a expansion of the SST that the government has been mooting, right? So maybe there's some insights that our panel speaker could give on this, and whether the new guidelines, which concerns management services and professional services, whether that is moving towards something which is an expanded SST regime. So our panel speaker is Mr. Chong Man Yu, who's going to give us a bit of an update and some of the relevant and quick actions that businesses should start to take to minimize exposure to this new SST updates. Mr. Chong has over 17 years of tax experience, which includes 7-year stint with an international law firm, dealing in corporate tax laws, liquidation matters, and more so professionally, he specializes in taxation covering areas such as the GST, domestic taxes, corporate restructuring, and initial public offerings. Of course, comes with the mergers and acquisitions, employee share options, and expatriate tax, and so on and so forth. So without further ado, I hope that you will have a good outcome and takeaway from this session. I will pass over to Mr. Chong Man Yu. Mr. Man Yu, are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you, Sean.
Okay, the floor is yours. And oh, wait, hang on a second. All those people who watching from Facebook, who wishes to post some questions, please leave your message at the as a messenger in Facebook. Okay, sorry about interruption. Back over to you, Manu.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. As we know that lunchtime is the most precious time, and but you take your precious time to spend with us, and I hope that you gain something from these updates, and we will make it as short and sweet as possible with loads of information. So without much further ado, I will go straight to the slide proper and give you the updates. The first part that we would like to update is notable updates in the Management Services Guide. Here we have prepared some example. Let's go to the example number 1 on building maintenance services. So in this example, first example is that you see in the picture that there's a shopping mall, and then there's a service provider, and this service provider B has been appointed by A. Senjan Berhad to manage the maintenance services of the shopping mall. So the issue here is for this building maintenance management services provided by service provider B to A, is it subject to service tax? In this case, the answer is yes, subject to service tax. Okay, let's go on to the second example, where we also have landlord A and tenant B. A, Sdn Bhd, the complex owner, leases shop lots to tenants and maintains the complex itself. So the keyword is leases shop lots to tenant and maintain the complex itself. So A, Sdn Bhd, only charges rental on the shop lots and does not charge any maintenance management services. So the question here, the issue is whether the rental is it subject to service tax. So the answer is it's not subject to service tax. Purely rental itself is not subject to service tax. Okay, we go on to the next example. This one updated from August 2021. So we have this landlord A, and then you have a tenant B. It's a slight modification of the previous example. So A, Sdn Bhd, is the owner of the complex, leases out the shop lots by charging rental fee. But here there's a bit of slightly different, inclusive of maintenance management. So the issue here is whether this rental fee is it subject to service tax. The answer is yes, because if you mix the maintenance management portion with the rental, then the whole value of this rental charge is subject to service tax. Okay, hope that one is clear. The next example we have is also landlord and then tenant. So here is that the Sdn Bhd, owner of the complex, leases out the shop lots by charging rental fee and maintenance management charges for common areas separately. So you're charging it separately. So the issue is whether the rental charge and the maintenance management service for common area, are they subject to service tax? The answer is for both elements, rental charge and also the maintenance management services, both also not subject to service tax. So here slightly different is because this maintenance management service is for a common area. Unlike the previous example, this one is for common area. So both also not subject to service tax. Okay, moving on to the next update we have is on professional services guide. Actually, previously we did give an update on this. However, there is some changes to this, so we say maybe it's a good idea to update everybody on this, the latest development. But before we go into that, we just explain to you some background on this. For directors, there are two types of contract. So you can see on the slide is that contract of services and contract for services. I will explain the difference. The first one is contract of services is actually a person is appointed as a director in the capacity of his post. This is under employment. There's a master-servant relationship. So these are employment services. There's a master-servant relationship. The person most likely will be like those directors, executive directors. They are doing all the running of the company and all those. There's another type of director, which is the second type, contract for services. So what are these type of directors? So this is a person appointed as a non-executive director in his personal capacity to provide expert opinion. Maybe previously worked as an auditor, now maybe give an opinion how the company should prepare the accounts for listed company, or maybe it could be anyone, could be an engineer, could be a lawyer, could be an architect, anybody, as well as performing the expert opinion. Previously, under the guide in September 2021, mentioned that all the fees charged by the director under contract for services should be subject to service tax. And then there was a modification. So this actually for customs, there are many changes. So is the updates are actually they are on and off there are some updates. So to be very careful with this. So on 6 October 2020, it mentioned that only director fees and remuneration subject to service tax. The rest of the items not subject to service tax, as you can see on the slides. However, this guide actually has been removed from 6 October 2021 from the My SST portal. Okay, now there is a new update, and this is effective from September 2021, where it says that previously, if you can see that not subject to service tax, so all these not subject to, but now they are saying a different thing. They say that all these directors' allowances, you have all these meeting allowances, monthly allowances, then the senior independent directors allowances and others, benefit in kind, reimbursement. Now they are saying that these are subject to service tax, and you need to put all this into the calculation to determine your threshold of the 500,000. So what are these? Benefit in kind is actually a part of the remuneration package, and it is a perquisites as an added incentive for directors. These are subject to service tax, and however, there is this facility which is if paid directly by the company to service provider for the non-executive directors to enjoy. These are not subject to service tax, simply because this is disbursement in nature, where the non-executive director is just a claimant. So as you can see that it's moving year to year. Right? Every year also there's an update whether you're subject to or not subject to. So some of you may be caught. If we can move to the next slides, where we highlighted in the two in one boxes. The first issue is let's say I am a non-executive director and was registered for service tax previously. I had cancelled my service tax license in October 2020. Then what should I do now? Now suddenly they change the law. Now you're subject to. So what we can advise is that you may need to reassess your registration liability according to the latest changes, and then you have to register for service tax if the fees that you receive, including all those benefit in kind and all those, exceeds the 500,000 threshold. So you need to do a reassessment. Once you have determined and let's say exceeds, then you should do the registration. Okay, let's say we look at the other box, which we have this issue. I was not aware that I am liable to register for service tax back in September 2018, because there are so many changes, right? With the recent changes, what should I do now? So under this amber box, so our response is that the professional guide dated 4th September 2018 explained that the service tax treatment on office holders and director fees. But based on the explanation provided, you can reassess the registration liability, and then you consider to perform a self-voluntary disclosure, which later we will talk about it, if you exceed the 500,000 threshold. So this is what we can advise. Moving on into other guides, we just want to give a very quick updates. There are four boxes here. Let's go through quickly. General guide on service tax. There's an update on 11 October 2021. This one is actually an update. This is an English version. Previously, they issued a Malay version. It is a similar guide previously dated 4th August 2021. So just an English version. Second one is a guide on consultancy, training, or coaching services dated 11 October 2021. So there's an example 43 whereby to explain on the case where a new service is specified as a taxable service and the provision of service is spanning after the change. So they just give a clear example to explain what happened during the spending after the change, before and after. Next one is on this electricity services. Guide on transmission and distribution of electricity services, dated 13 October 2021. There's a change in paragraph 14 table, whereby it says that usage less or equal to 600 kilowatt hour for billing cycle less than 28 days is subject to service tax. Next one, we have the guide on fridge services, dated 5th March 2019, and then reissue on 14 October 2021. This one, they just have an additional note to inform that fridge services is not taxable effective 1st September 2019. So there's nothing new, just reiterate the taxable service on fridge services not subject to. Next update will be on guide on management services, 28 October 2021. We have the similar Malay version, dated 4th August 2021. So now they issue the English version. So for those who are more familiar with the English version, you can read this one. Next one is on this on credit cards and charge card. The update is on 26th October 2021. So there are changes, but these changes is just to provide clarity. So you have paragraph 14, 15, 16, and the list of it. And there's some changes in example 1, 2, 4, 6. But these changes is just to provide further clarity on the matter. They are not changing it, it's just more clarity. And then you have the last one is guide on professional services, dated 31st October 2021. Previously, we have this Malay version, Bahasa version, dated 21st September 2021. Now you can have the English version. Okay, having said all these updates and all those, so what in summary, what impact does it make to you? So we summarize it into four categories. The first one that you need to consider is your billing description. You need to be able to state as clearly as possible to avoid any dispute by the customer and the Royal Malaysia Customs Department. For example, issue like disbursement versus reimbursement. So as you know that reimbursement is subject to service tax, disbursements is not, but there are conditions how to fall under category of disbursement. In the event you cannot fulfill, then by default you actually fall under reimbursement and the service tax will apply. The next category is on your contract or your agreement. So we need to revisit all these contracts, especially those long-term contracts that you have. Actually, Malaysia is a very unique country because we have the SST 1.0. Then after that, we have this GST, and then for a short period of time, then we move back to SST 2.0. So, but the thing is that this change of tax regimes, the regime just changed. However, if let's say you sign a contract, the contract will continue. It will be in operation throughout these three regimes. So the impact on that agreement, it could, depending on how the agreement is being drafted, you may need to revisit some of these clauses and all those, see what is the impact to you and to the other party. If necessary, you might need to do a supplemental agreement to just make it clear. Otherwise, you may end up with an issue that both parties also say, I'm not going to pay, then we have a big issue. Okay, next item we have is provision of services spending after the change. So you need to reassess whether the changes have any implication on the previously, current, and future. Actually, this one tied with the second item that I just mentioned, your contractual agreement, the contracts and your agreement. So you need to see all these assessment. What is the impact in these three different regimes? And the last one, of course, I'm not sure about you, but every year I like to do a health check to just check whether, I mean, just monitor that whether everything is okay, whether cholesterol too high or whatever. But for tax also, it is also a good practice to just to check whether everything is okay or not. And if there are some issues that you need to resolve, like for example redrafting the contract or maybe change of the way how we do the business, do address it as soon as possible. If not, it will be like a snowballing effect, right? Because it's the same practice that if the potential liability could be a snowball, then it can be a big problem. And here we will, how we can assist you is we can assist in various ways. Indirect tax advisory and compliance. Then of course, indirect tax appeal and dispute resolution. We do appear before the customs tribunal and all those. And third one is application for customs license. So exemption, registration, deregistration. So like for example, the director fees, some of you may fall under the threshold before, then now fall out. Then they reintroduce, change the rules. Now you might fall in again. So those are the changes. And of course, we can help in terms of in-house indirect tax training catered specifically for you. Custom ruling assistance, HS code and all those. Indirect tax duties, you have merger acquisition, you want to buy a company, so you need to assess what is the potential indirect tax liabilities. And the last one is GST refund assistance. Yeah, basically I have finished my slides. We can actually move to question and answer. Okay, actually there are some questions which have been submitted. Maybe I just read those questions to you. Okay, the first question being raised is this. SVDP 2.0, how will this be implemented? Okay, very good question. Yesterday I was reading the, as you all know that yesterday Parliament just read first reading of the finance bill. So yesterday whole night we were reading the finance bill to assess what are the impacts to taxpayers. So we were looking. Somehow the SVDP not included inside. So we suspect that maybe the details are a lot. So they maybe for this first round they would just push out all the income tax, the stamp duty, real property gain tax, Labuan, go out first, and they will draft this SVDP into another document. So we will have another one, and with a lot of details, of course. So at the moment, we don't have much details, but it should be coming. Then once we have that, then we will probably set up another updates and probably update all of you. Next question we have is with the recent budget announcement, hope this has indirect tax agenda inside. Thanks. Definitely. In fact, yesterday I was attending some conference and all those. For 2021, the total tax revenue targeted is 162 billion, 162 B. So for direct tax, aiming 120 billion, indirect tax 42 billion. So we have this for this year 162. And then next year they would like to have it. This is a very easy number, 234. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. 234 billion. So I just did a very quick calculation on the back of the envelope. So if you compare 234 and then you compare with last year 162 billion, the increase in absolute number is about 72 billion. So imagine this year we have 162. Next year they want to achieve 234. So 72 billion. And in terms of percentage, I just did a very quick one. It's about 44% increase from this year's revenue. So next year it is expected to increase the revenue by 44%. So this year indirect tax is already 42 billion. So if you do a quick 44% increase from 42, it will come up to about 60, maybe 60 to 61 billion. So there's an increase of 18 billion on indirect tax alone. 18 billion is actually not a very small figure. And one of the ways they are going to do it is through this SVDP. So I was also reading some news. This Senator Tengku Safro said that this SVDP could be a way to prepare everybody for the GST 2.0. So they want to clean up everything, move on to GST. That's what he said. But that is just in the news. Whether it will be finally implemented, that is subject to the decision of the Ministry of Finance. But that is a second question, if I have answered your question. Then there's another question being raised. What are the examples of management services and professional services under SST? Okay, for this question, actually the taxable services, all these management services and professional services, they are actually prescribed under, if you are familiar, is under the Group G, first schedule of the service tax regulations, 2018. So you have all these professional categories, like for example, like let's say engineers, architects, lawyers, accountants, all the various service providers. So they are all inside that. Okay, that is this question. Next one is we need more details on the SVDP. Actually, we really need, because we don't know how wide is this scope. What we understand is that it will definitely include sales tax, service tax. It could be under import duties, but bearing in mind for indirect tax, we have also some other categories like excise, export duties, and those smaller ones like tourism tax and all those. So these are all under the administration of the Royal Malaysian Customs Department. So if we really talk about indirect tax, it's actually quite wide. It's not like previously a few years ago under the income tax. We only talk about income tax. So income tax, of course, is a big category because there are a lot of companies under the income tax and individuals. But indirect tax, they have a lot of smaller parts, but actually it's quite wide. So I think our thinking is that it will include all this, and custom will be one of those going to be revenue generator for the country for next year under this program. Okay, next question we have is, if I can read to you, is a corporate required to pay service tax on fee payable to non-executive independent director? Okay, this question actually we have covered. Just now we draw a distinction between contract of service and then the other is contract for services, right? So just remember that the off one is actually a master-servant relationship. It's employment. So you have an employment, you are subject to a master-servant relationship. So those are not subject to service tax. Those salary you receive, those are not subject to service tax. It's only for those contract for, meaning that your non-executive directors and all those you will need to consider for service tax purposes, and you need to reassess your threshold given the recent updates. Okay, there's another question raised here. An overseas company charges a related local company for professional service, and then the related company charges the same professional services to another third-party local company with an additional 6% service tax. The value of the intercompany charges has exceeded the 5% total value of the services to a third party, just do not able to enjoy the group relief. In this case, is the intercompany's transaction on professional services still able to enjoy imported service exemptions stated under the service tax policy number 2/2020? Oh, the question is very long. Okay, but here there are a few parts. So we are talking about the 5% threshold for group relief and all those. For this question, this 5% group relief facility only applies to taxable services provided by registered person in Malaysia. It does not apply to imported taxable services acquired from group members located outside Malaysia. So unfortunately, you don't have that. So so the imported services, you still have to subject it to service tax. Okay, gone through some of this question. Not sure whether any other question that may have.
Okay, I've looked through. There don't seem to be any further questions. Okay. Manu, you have finished with your presentation?
Yeah, I have finished my presentation, actually.
Okay, I mean, with your FAQs. Yeah, it's quite a bit scary. So it is true, the update seems to be an expansion. And if you talk about indirect tax of 44% increase, which works out to be like what you said, 18 billion of additional indirect tax that they are targeting, right? And if you take a rough calculation of 10% tax rate, indirect tax rate, you're talking about 180 billion fees and stuff is going to be caught under this new regime. 180 billion, wow, that's quite a sizable chunk, and I don't know where that's really coming from, right? Because normally corporate tax is already taking quite a big chunk, but it's 180 billion of management fees and professional services that they're going to draw on. Does it sound a bit too big, the number, 180 billion?
Yeah. So I think there will be a lot of audit going on because they may not look at the current year transaction. They may go back to the previous year. So we have many years they can audit that may make up to the numbers. But even then, the number is also very big.
Yeah. So okay, but if that's the situation, let's say we're talking about the additional 18 billion of indirect tax. So it seems to be, yes, it's an expansion of the SST. And it is also giving a little bit of hint of what you also mentioned. Maybe it's just the precursor to a GST, right? Yeah. It does have these signs, which answers the question that I raised when we started this, that there is something that's going to come in. I guess they would not do so because GE15 is on the way, and maybe there is thereafter because it's a death nail. Okay, all right. So there don't seems to be any other extra questions, because you have actually covered this in the last session, and this session is just an update of what changed in between, right?
Yes,
so I guess most of it has been covered. Okay, so without anything else, any last things, takeaways, Manu, about what companies should do now?
I think given the high KPI being given to the custom and all those, it is prudent to actually check the tax. I mean your policy and practice and all those, just to make sure that everything is in order. So make sure that don't give don't give any take chances, and make sure everything is in order. And when they come, you can actually defend your position. That will be the best policy you can adopt at the moment.
Yes, true. And we also saw during last financial year, the IRD audits were very aggressive. They were very going out. So we might see in this year and probably in next year that customs might be also be aggressive because they have such a high target to cash out. And then of course preparation is always the best defense. Okay. Okay, so without any further questions coming through, we should end this. We are just 10 minutes past the 1 o'clock deadline. Very interesting, very good. And I hope everyone else have a good takeaway from here. And looking forward to the next MICCI Crow Expert Hour that's going to come on. It's almost every month. Okay, so riveting again. Thank you all that attended. Thank you. So see you next time. Bye.
Thank you very much.